Ministry of Health says protocols are in place for a flight of Grenadians returning home tomorrow. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, June 18th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. 88 Grenadians who were stranded in the United States since the closure of the country's borders will touch down on Grenadian soil on Friday. But even while preparations are being made to have the 88 people return home, the government of Grenada has been working to ensure that protocols are in place to guarantee their safety and the safety of those at home. During a press conference on Thursday morning, Minister for Health, Honorable Nicholas Steele, said one of their first requests was that the individuals receive a PCR test not more than 7 days before the flight, and that test had to be negative for COVID-19. There were some on the flight who could not readily access the test because of rules in the different state from where they came, so the ministry requested that a rapid test be done and the results received before boarding. For those who would not have received a test or test results before boarding, Minister Steele says additional procedures are in place at home. He added that they all are expected to wear masks and keep appropriate spacing, and they will maintain a similar lineup when they land as that on the aircraft to minimize the risk of spreading or contracting the virus. They will be rapid tested on arrival.
Anyone at that point who tests positive on a rapid test will go to secondary testing right there and then at the airport for a PCR test. Depending on the results of that PCR test, they will either be isolated if that PCR test is positive, or they will go into the quarantine, mandatory quarantine facility like everyone else if that PCR test is negative. All individuals will do a minimum of 4 days in the government-approved quarantine facility. At the end or during that 4-day period, every individual will be PCR tested again. All 88 individuals will be PCR tested again. Those who had a PCR test before boarding that was negative, and 4 days after arriving in Grenada have another PCR test that is negative, will be allowed to complete the rest of their quarantine at home.
Nationals who have received a rapid test in the U.S. or who have not been able to get tested in the United States or who have not yet received test results may be quarantined at the government-approved facility for up to 10 or 14 days or until negative PCR test results are received, and the need for quarantine is no longer deemed necessary by the Ministry of Health. PAHO and WHO says the quarantine period can be reduced from 14 to 10 days. Continuing with the news, Grenada's ambassador in the United States, Her Excellency Yolande Smith, says team effort has resulted in the realization of the first repatriation flight of stranded Grenadians from the United States since the closure of Grenada's borders March 22, 2020. Ambassador Smith, who was a guest on the current affairs program Distance Makes the Difference, hosted by Sherma Wells, says the Grenada government, through the Ministry of Health, worked diligently with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that the flight became a reality.
On the back end here, we've been working with JetBlue just to make sure everything is on schedule. We have given our nationals the briefing that we have had from the COVID team to make sure all the protocols would be adhered to. And people are desperate to get home, but they're also mindful of the fact that in an abundance of caution that they will have to be quarantined, and they have agreed to those measures. So I'm really happy that it's working on both ends, and they have families at home as well that they need to be protected. So I think they've seen the bigger picture, and it's going well.
Ambassador Smith says as many as 93 Grenadians showed interest in getting on the flight. However, 88 will be coming home.
The flight capacity is 88. right now. And we had a town hall yesterday evening, Ambassador James and myself, because we have people stranded in Canada who was thinking of making that New York flight as well. So we had a joint press conference, and we had 82 out of the 93 people on the list on that, almost a 3-hour, just answering all the questions, because of course we had consultations with the COVID committee beforehand. So we were able to be consistent, concise, and to drill over and over again the protocols and make sure that we have adherence to it. And the embassy has arranged also to give everybody on that flight a care package that will have one cloth mask and also a surgical mask, because those are mandated once they're in the airport, as well as in Grenada during their quarantine and going home. They'll have that as well. So we're trying to make sure that there are no barriers to them adhering to the protocols at home once they get there.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Grenada Airports Authority is taking all the necessary health and safety measures to protect staff and passengers from COVID-19 at both the Maurice Bishop International Airport and the Lauriston Airport. The Airport Authority assures the general public that it continues to follow guidelines outlined by the Ministry of Health, CARFA, and WHO, and has employed international best practice measures such as sensitization sessions for staff, enhanced passenger screening, improved sanitation protocols, and monitoring updates from official local, regional, and international agencies. The safety of all our employees and passengers is our top priority. Thus, we have improved signage and taken additional steps to remind all our employees, passengers, and other stakeholders of the 6 feet physical distancing protocols, wearing of masks, and other sanitation measures. We have also installed additional sanitizing stations throughout the facility, floor markers, plexiglass sneeze guards for customer contact points, as well as COVID-19 testing stations. Upon entry to the terminal, all passengers are screened by public health officials and required to fill out health declaration forms. The authority is and continues to be committed to taking all the necessary protective measures to reduce the risk of the spread of COVID-19 and to ensure the safety and wellness of all involved.
Welcome back. The Ministers of Health and Tourism made a final tour of the Maurice Bishop International Airport on Thursday to ensure that all is ready for Friday's flight of repatriated Grenadians. Minister Nicholas Steele and Dr. Clarice Modeste Kerwin were accompanied by epidemiologist Dr. Sean Charles, who says his team looks after the medical aspect of the repatriation process. He is pleased with what he has seen so far. Dr. Charles is confident that the team is ready for the task at hand on Friday to test each of the repatriated passengers.
We are just here today touring and looking at the facilities that are available and what arrangements we will put in place in order to ensure that we efficiently screen all of the passengers, ensure that they are safe and before they go to their quarantine locations.
Dr. Charles commended the Grenada Airports Authority for the work done at the arrival launch to ensure social distancing, testing, and proper hygiene. Aviation Services of Grenada does the ground handling for JetBlue. General Manager Leslie Scott says his team has been briefed and ready to execute their duties when the JetBlue flight arrives.
We have been prepared. Behind the scene, we have been working seriously to get things done. We don't want to stay rusty, so we are ready more or less. At this point in time, we still have training going on upstairs, and especially for tomorrow's flight, we are good to go. We are ready. Our staff is engaged and ready to go. We have been counseling our staff. We have met with them where the union is concerned. We have also dealt with all the PPEs and ensure them that systems are in place.
Despite the announcement by Health Minister that Grenada is now COVID-19 free with all 23 cases medically cleared, Dr. Charles says protocols must be adhered to so that Grenada remains safe. Finally in the news, although July 1st is the date given for the possible reopening of Grenada's borders, Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Clarice Modeste Kerwin, says they will still monitor all the logistics based on the fluidity of the situation. During a press conference on Thursday, Minister Modest Cohen said the intention is to seize the least risky point, but they must weigh all the factors involved.
The reality is that our largest source market, our nearest neighbor in terms of serious international visitors and tourism as a source market, we have to be cognizant of what is happening there, and the decisions will be taken based on the dynamics. So we have set a date because we believe that it is important to work towards a date. The airlines want to know so they can start marketing the schedule for persons, and we would like to see some tourism activity happen.
That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, June 18th. Let's recap the top story. Ministry of Health says protocols are in place for flight of Grenadians returning home tomorrow. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rekeisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.